Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Commanding the Market. I'm your host, Nathan Hale, the MTG Librarian. I'm joined by my co-host, Trent Richardson. How's it going, man? Doing that dab.
Just dabbing because that's a thing that has happened in the past in human history. So
It has.
Feeling pretty decent. Pre-release weekend, Kaldheim.
Yes.
I went and got some couple of pre-release kits and a boosty box. And pre-release kits, not super great. However, one of the kits, which when we were talking previously, I didn't tell you this, but one of the kits, I actually got 2 stamped promos in it.
Really?
Yeah, so pretty cool.
Which means somebody out there got 0.
Maybe, or maybe I just got 2.
Maybe.
So yeah, pretty good there. Nothing super great in either of them, although the one that I only got 1 stamped promo in was a little bit better as far as the rares went. I think I had a Tybalt. I forget the front name of the card.
Yeah. Valky.
Yes, I got one of those. But in the booster box, I got the Phyrexian script Big Daddy Veraclex.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
Pretty nice there. I got a full art Tybalt, and we just said the name, but again, can't keep it straight yet.
God of Lies, I think it is.
Yep, that's it. And then a alternate art Tergrid. Pretty cool. Alternate art Varigoth and a regular art Varigoth. Mana Reflection. And I think that's all the notable stuff. There's some other good stuff too. I got the tree, the tree land, the 5-colored 10 mana tree land.
Oh yeah, the World Tree.
World Tree, yeah.
Yggdrasil, as it would be known in our world.
So my foil rares were nothing to write home about for sure. I couldn't even tell you what they were, but
that remarkable, huh?
Yeah, pretty bad.
We're at the point where foils aren't what they used to be, unless they're alternate art, 3D pop out and like slap your opponent while you're playing.
Yeah, I will say the alternate art, like uncommon legendary creatures. I got a couple of those in foil, and they are.
How is the foiling? Kiss. How is the foiling in this set?
It's not etched. It looks cool, but
did you have any curling?
Not yet. But I tend to not, because I take some special precautions. I use like desiccant packs and things like that. So I usually, even in this humid Texas weather, I do not usually get any kind of curling. But again, I take extra special precautions not to. So, Anyhow.
Well, I have not opened my pre-release kit yet. It's been a busy weekend, but I'm looking forward to when I do, and playing some online with some other people. Now, as far as the market and how cards have been moving for this set, it's been kind of crazy. Last week, we talked about quite a few, and I didn't expect prices to fluctuate that much between last week and this week. I expected to see changes happening after the actual release date, but we saw some major swings in the last 7 days.
Yeah, so it's interesting. We had talked about, I think around like double masters, we started noticing a trend where all the pre-orders were kind of settling in weeks and weeks before pre-release. Yeah. And so prices were pretty stable even 2 weeks before pre-release even started. So, and that happened consistently with every set past that. So I guess we were expecting that again here, and
that has not been the case.
That is not the case at all.
I think nearly every card we had on that list jumped up.
Jumped by more than double in some
In some
cases.
cases, like quadruple or quintuple. And ones I
Yeah.
didn't even expect to move much, like we talked about Realm Walker, that jumped up to like $7 or $8, which I was like, no way.
Hmm.
And I would never buy it at that price.
No.
But some of the better cards we thought that were in the set, they saw significant gains. And let's open it up first with I want to do the top one last. We'll talk about Mystic Reflection first.
All right. Yeah.
And that one was one of my personal favorites from the set. And a week ago, this card was sitting at a market price of $3.97, and it has now jumped to $12.19 market price. I didn't expect that this quick. I expected like in 4 to 6 months it'd pull a Sharknado, and lo and behold, it has a shark on it as well. Maybe that's an indicator now, guys. If it's got a shark spec,
that's right.
Be the shark spec on the sharks. But yeah, it got there fast. Now, will that hold after release? This is kind of weird. I wouldn't think it would, because the market's going to get flooded. There'll be a race to the bottom. But this sets a possible precedent on where this card could end up 9 months or a year from now. And Lord knows if it sees as much play as I think it will across all formats, it's going to hit back to this 12 and then some. Probably within 6 months at the longest is my guess. So keep an eye on this. Look for it to drop. See if you can get a good deal on it. I don't know if you're going to find that $3.97 again, even within the first month after release, which is usually when we see your lowest prices.
Yeah. So I will make one comment on Mystic Reflection. When we originally talked about it in the last video, I think both of us, or at least I, wanted to spec on it because we assumed that this would be, every creature you play after you play this.
No, it's just
the next creature or grouping of creatures. Yeah. So like, if you
Avengers Zendikar on the stack, the plants from Avengers Zendikar. Yeah, exactly. No, it's only the next time. I personally love it because you can run it in any deck where you're running those that sort of thing where you're able to go wide really fast, and there's dozens and dozens of cards you can do that with. But it's also really good defensive. I love it for you cast your commander you can combo, do your whatever, and no you don't. You got a mana dork. Congratulations.
Yeah, exactly. Can you imagine this guy on like a crater hoof that didn't get there the turn previous? Yeah. That's sick. So, anyway, Mystic Reflection, pretty good, especially with the foretell mechanic where you can just, it doesn't have to be a dead. Yeah, it doesn't have to be a dead card in your hand forever. I mean, if you're sitting there holding on 7 without, any kind of, thing to let you keep more than 7 cards in your hand. I mean, so
it's
pretty good.
This next one I think was your favorite that we talked about last week.
My favorite, Varigoth, Blood Sky Sire. So he was at 72 cents last week. He's at 10.53 now.
That is more than 1,000% increase in market price.
Yeah,
and I remember Card Kingdom at the time had 8 in stock at 99 cents a piece, and that was like the deal you could find them at. Wow.
And see, I don't know if that was just like miscalculation or like.
I think people just were underestimating the ability, and I think that's been a case on a lot of these cards, and now it could be a case on all these cards of overestimating their ability in the following week. But I think that's a good indicator that people are now realizing, like, oh, wait, these cards are good. They're worth more than we're putting them at.
Yeah, I mean, Boast being able to do it instantly, even during the attacker step, declare attacker step is, chock full of shenanigan things that can be happening there.
You're tutoring, and then if you have any kind of instant draw ability or capability, you tutor at the top on the combat step as you declare attack. And then who knows what you do from that point.
Yeah, just something simple as like Merfolk Looter, being on the battlefield, turn 2. Yeah. Turn 3, play Varigoth. Turn 4, swing with Varigoth, Boast, Merfolk Looter during the attack step. You could find something as silly as just like a combat trick to where, Varigoth doesn't gets indestructible or something, and +1/+0 or something stupid, so that way you can just keep them alive and do it again the next turn. I mean, the sky is kind of the limit with that. So
it comes down to what can you tutor for. There's only like what 18,000 plus cards to choose from. So
yeah, 22,368.5 by my count.
Divided squared by the square root of Morrow.
4. Yeah.
Well, we got another one here, which is also once again from Kaldheim, and that would be Tergrid, God of Fright. This one was sitting at, when we talked about last week, it was at 668 because the world out there realized this card is very powerful and probably the most anticipated to play around card. I think this one's kind of affected the market the most of all the gods or cards really from this set that I've noticed. And it is now sitting at 1093 market price. And this is, again, all three of these are rares. These are not mythics. So I don't expect these prices to hold, but they give you indications of long-term where we may expect to see some of these cards end up. Be long-term, be 6 months from now or 3 years from now. But I think they give us a good idea of the general interest in these cards. And I think Tergrid's one of my favorite cards from the set, hands down.
Yeah, mine too. And, I think Tergrid and Vargoth both are interesting because not only are they just fantastic build-arounds, and really, Vargoth doesn't even have to be built around. It's just
a lot of these.
Tutor in your command zone.
Yeah, that's what I think about all three of these. We talked about Mystic Reflection as well. These can slot into a lot of decks. They're not necessarily have to build around. If you do build around some of these, it can be utterly disgusting. But like Tergrid, you're playing black. You're probably forcing opponents to sacrifice stuff all the time because that's what black does. So throw a Tergrid in, and now you're getting that much more value out of everything they sacrifice. Vargoth, black likes to tutor. Well, here's a tutor on a body. Yeah. And Mystic Reflection, that's just shenanigans like crazy in blue. But we did mention Tergrid was affecting prices, and back in November, we recommended picking up a card called Dark Deal from only printed in Fate Reforged as uncommon. Now, at the time, it had a market price of $1.34, and it has now jumped up to $1.69, and it is out of stock at the major online vendors, listing it at $2. They are sold out. So I hope you picked up your copies on that one. I don't think it's going to go down any between Tiny Bones and Tergrid and their popularity in discard strats becoming a bigger theme as they're putting more cards there. Something like Dark Deal is going to just get better and better. If they don't reprint it, that card could see a $5 price mark in the next year or so. If they continue.
Yeah, and it's going to be a tough one to reprint too because it's effectively a black wheel ability. The fact that it's uncommon just
it surprises
my mind.
Hell out of me. Yeah.
But I guess does everybody think that drawing -1 is like that bad? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that bad.
Well, I mean, it's not exactly wheel because it's not draw 7, it's draw that many. It's more like a Winds of Change, I guess, or I guess it'd be Winds of Change. Am I thinking the right one? Yeah. I don't know, I just really like it, and there's so much value you can get out of forcing your opponents to discard aside from Tergrid.
For sure.
So, talking about cards jumping and popping, I have noticed, as I'm sure you have, the reserve list is going crazy right now.
Yeah.
Like insane across the board.
So, I think, I wanted to message you this last night and tell you my thoughts on this, but I figured I'd wait for the show to do it live and in person and get your camera thoughts.
All right.
But so the reserve list is like going bonkers, and we're talking like EDH fringe staples and like nearly unplayables.
Yeah.
Pretty much anything on the reserve list right now is just popping hard.
Yeah.
So, this has been happening for a few weeks now, but I think a lot of it started because of that Black Lotus on eBay. So I don't know if you've been keeping up with.
What
There's
happened on that?
a PSA 10 graded signed Black Lotus on eBay that I think it was Alpha, yeah, an Alpha that went for $500,000
Wow.
on
I didn't
eBay.
hear about
So,
that.
yeah, but I mean, it's been up for quite a while now. I mean, a couple months the bid process has been happening, and it's one of those you can't just go online willy-nilly and make a bid. You got to like call the seller and
Verify your income and everything.
verify your
Probably.
income
Yeah.
and proof of funds and all this other stuff. So, it's been going on for quite a while. At some point, it was up to 750,000, and then that buyer, like, it ended up being a sham bid. So they had to take that bid down. But when all of this started, it was sitting at about 350,000. And we started seeing a little creep on the purchasing of reserve list cards again. And just a couple weeks ago, when it finally sold for 500,000, is when we just, I mean, got a crazy amounts of buying happening from reserve lists. So,
well, I know back last year when we started doing this, I've always been looking at reserve list cards here or there, but I started looking heavier into the tier 2.5 / tier 3 reserve list cards like Bosium Strip, Dystopia, Carnival of Souls, Equipoise, cards that I felt could find a home in a deck either currently or in the future in EDH, and I started speccing and buying those up. And I think we've talked about a couple on the show. Bosium Strip, I know we did, possibly Dystopia. Well, I've since sold one of my Dystopias for like $11. I sold Carnival of Souls for $15. Single copies on these. A light play copy of Bosium Strip I sold literally went in the mail today for $9. So I just decided to sell, basically recoup my expenses and on what I'd already spent on the 3 to 6 copies of these cards I bought last 6 months ago or less. So yeah, now I'm just in net gain on those cards while they're up. So I'm like, okay, met my cost plus a small bit of profit, and now I have bunches of copies still to sit on to sell.
sure.
So yeah, but those are really like tier 2.5, like fringe playable, like we talked about. But there's some others that we're going to talk about today. They're a little more expensive, but I still think they have a lot of room to spike and grow. And I've honestly felt that way for a while about the first two we're going to talk about. And the third one is a recent huge winner from both Tiny Bones and Turgid, and we'll get to that as well. But first, I think we need to go ahead and call in the reserves. What do you say? So I'll start us off here with Scorched Ruins from Weatherlight. This is a land that when it comes into play, sacrifice 2 untapped lands or bury Scorched Ruins. And you can tap it to add 4 colorless mana to your mana pool. This is a solid card if you're in colorless. Like, you know, an Eldrazi themed or Eldrazi based deck or artifact based deck. Where you're in, you know, not monocolor necessarily, but colorless. This is kind of an auto include in my opinion. And a lot of times those lands that you sacrificed can be recurred through things like Crucible of Worlds or whatever have you. Or maybe it's playing Flagstones. You sack it. That's one of the ones you sack and you go fetch a Plains as well. A lot of ways to just make this even better. But playable lands that I want to show a comparison card to this actually. Lake of the Dead from Alliances, which I believe is now at somewhere between $90 and $130, and that comes into play. Sacrifice a swamp or bury it, and then you can tap sacrifice a swamp to add 4 black. Well, this doesn't make you sacrifice anymore beyond those initial 2 lands, and it just taps for 4 mana. Really solid card, and currently sitting at a market price of $40.09 with a mid of $48.11. It is out of stock at Card Kingdom for $39.99. out of stock at Star City Games for $29.99. I bet they've been out for a while now. Out at Channel Fireball at $40. And TCG, the lowest price copy they have near mint, is $59.99. But if you're looking to pick this up because you want to play with it, Light Play is an option as low as $37.77. Yeah. I really feel this card could easily, possibly by the end of this year, reach the $75 to $100 mark. I especially if things keep going as they are, because I think Lake of the Dead was sitting at like 50 or 60 just a couple months ago.
And yeah, it wasn't that. It was the second most expensive card in Alliances, and the only reason I know that is because that Force of Will had opened. So yeah, it was about, actually at that time it was like 40.
Yeah.
But yeah, this card's gross. Now it is only colorless mana, but I mean,
so is Soul Ring, and everybody seems to like playing with that.
Yeah. And this is free. I mean, essentially, I guess it does technically cost like 2 mana ish, but I mean, it doesn't come into play tapped.
Nope.
It's always there. It doesn't pain you every time you use it. Like City of Traders.
Yeah.
Well,
City of Traders hits, if you play another land, it's gone.
Oh, I mean, what's the other? Ancient Tomb. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay, Ancient Tomb. Yeah. And that is only giving you 2 mana anyway. This is giving you 4.
Yeah, exactly.
Scorched Ruins is really good. Currently only played in 1,300 decks. Not that surprising, because really it's a colorless commander deck you want this to be in my opinion.
Sure.
It could you slot it in any deck? Sure. I could run this in Muldrotha and recur the lands I lost from it. Mm-hmm. But do I need that much colorless in Muldrotha? Probably wouldn't hurt, but I don't necessarily need it either. But
definitely helps playing that commander after it's been killed a couple times for sure.
That's true. Definitely helps with the tax. Now this next one I've been a huge fan of. Why don't you tell us about this one?
Yeah, so Thawing Glaciers from Alliances, we were just kind of talking about that. Another land that comes into play tapped, has the ability of paying 1 colorless and tapping it. You search your library for a basic land, put it into play tapped. This does not count towards your 1 land per turn, and then you shuffle your library afterwards. At the end of the turn, return Thawing Glaciers to its owner's hand. So every other turn, this is basically like a rampant growth. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty good. It's pretty good. Yeah. A rampant growth for a single colorless mana,
Yeah.
Now it doesn't tap for any color of mana or colorless mana.
Yeah.
But
you really don't want it to. You use it to fetch out colored mana from your deck.
So I've been buying these up, actually, all the Alliance lands for a while now.
So Devi Excavations, Kildrorn Outpost, Lake of the Dead.
Yeah. Well, haven't been buying those. Those have been a little bit pricey. Yeah, but yeah, I've got a few Thawing Glaciers, and the fact that these guys are TCG market of $27.69 and a mid of $34.50 is doing me pretty well right now, considering I probably paid about 50 cents a piece for these things.
Oh my God, how'd you manage that? Because this card's been in the $17 to $20 range for a while. Is this your more bargain bin finding?
Yeah.
You keep finding those amazing deals. That shop doesn't know what you got, what they got.
Well, man,
and you refuse to tell me how to find this shop.
Well, I mean, I don't refuse to tell you. I refuse to tell you on here.
All right.
But I'll go ahead and tell you. I mean, there's at this point,
you picked him clean.
It's done for. Last couple times, it's just been nothing. So, anyhow, Card Kingdom $27.99. They still have 1 in stock. Star City Games out of stock at $29.99. Channel Fireball also out of stock at $28, and you can pick them up near mint. Lowest near mint copies $34.99, and light play you can get them as low as $25. So. Yeah, a pretty sweet include. Now you wouldn't count it towards like a land count in your deck. But I mean,
I
still
don't think
very
it hurt
good.
you even if you did. If you run, say, 37 lands and this counts as one of those lands,
Yeah, I guess
unless
you're
it's your
right.
only land in hand, you'll be able to just keep fetching lands with this. You just need one other land that produces mana of any color, and you're off to the races. Every other
Yeah.
turn, you're sure to get a land drop.
I mean, it is slug races because it is every other
Yeah,
turn 6 to play tapped. But it's, I mean, either way, you're still doing better than drawing 2 lands total for 5 turns.
yeah.
So
If you're
pretty
running
good.
like, what's that, Amulet of Vitality? Is that what it's called? Where
Oh
if you're
yeah,
running a deck like
bigger.
that, you really want to run Thawing Glaciers in that kind of any deck running that, because then you're literally off to the races every time. You play
Okay.
this, you fetch. Now this next one here we're going to talk about is an artifact that I thought about picking up back when Tiny Bones was spoiled, and this
Mhm.
card started to jump a little. I said I better jump on this now, but I was like, I don't think we're going to see anything big on discard for a little while. I was wrong. Because then we got Turgid, and this card has jumped again. And the card I'm talking about is Anvil of Bogredin from Visions. And this is a artifact that costs 2 mana. Each player skips his or her discard phase. Yay, big rips. And during each player's draw phase, that player draws an additional card and then chooses and discards a card. So if you're playing in the discard strategy, where you're getting value off your opponent's discarding because they take damage, or you're able to take what they discard and put it into play under your control, like Turgid, or any number of other things, this becomes a really powerful artifact at just 2 mana. Now, currently it's played in a little over 2,000 decks, and the TCG market is $38.45 with a mid of $45. Card Kingdom, out of stock at $39.99. Star City Games, out of stock at $29.99. So you can tell they ran out of stock before Card Kingdom did in all likelihood. Channel
Yeah.
Fireball, also out of stock at $42. Now, Near Mint on TCG Player is going to run you $49.99 with light play as low as $36. So this card you could have gotten Near Mint pretty easily before Tiny Bones. I think it was right around $18 to $20. I can't quite recall, because I put together an Anye deck that was a discard deck, and I considered getting this card. I still don't know if I did or not. I haven't checked to see if it's in there.
Yeah, it was about $20.
Yeah, so
It's been 20 for quite some time,
Yeah.
since 2017 ish.
Yeah, a lot of the Alliances, Weatherlight, and Visions cards were kind of flat for a while, and in the last year, and in particular the last 6 months, they've really started taking off. As has revised non-reserve list as well. It's becoming the new unlimited, and which makes me happy and sad at the same time. It's weird. Like, I had so many of those. I don't anymore because sold the collection long ago. But it's also the set I kind of started playing in. So I'm happy to see those cards having some worth to players now.
Right. See Wheel of Fortune revised. I mean,
oh my god, I'm so glad I picked mine up Near Mint copy 2-3 years back, because I was like, if I ever run red, I want to have Wheel of Fortune, so I'm gonna get one. But it ran me about $70, and I was like, a little steep, but it's Near Mint. Not steep. Was a great pickup. Great pickup.
So I picked up mine from a random seller on, like, I don't know, Facebook or something 2 or 3 years ago. When I, maybe even more than that now, 3-4 years ago, probably. And the only reason I bought it was, I was going through her stack of cards that she had, and I was like, hey, I remember this card. It's always been good, so I grabbed it. Again, I just kind of gotten back into Magic at that point, and I didn't know values of much of anything, so I was just buying stuff that had nostalgia for me at the time. So I think in total I bought I maybe gave her like $50 or $60 total for all the stuff I got, and a revised Wheel of Fortune was one of those cards. So yeah, I probably paid $20 for it at the time. I'm not really even sure. But when we're talking $499.99 today, I mean we're doing pretty good.
Well, I saw it jumped over 1,000 a week or two back. It's since
Mhm.
come down. Last I looked, it was around 700. I don't know if it's continued dropping from there, but
Yeah, it's around 500 right now. A little under five, maybe 450 to 500 ish.
mhm.
Near mint, I think the cheapest one still on there is about 480 or something like that. Um, so
This is revised. I mean, this is a
yeah,
card from revised. That's not a dual land. But
yeah,
I'm kind of not surprised because that was the last printing it saw.
mhm.
Because it is reserve list. They never reprinted it again after revised, and it's honestly it's kind of on power level with some of the Power 9. Like it's not
Oh
too
yeah.
far off from Time Twister.
No,
Yeah, you don't
it's
shuffle the graveyard, but it's pitch hand draw 7, which is the major part of Time Twister. Most unless you're going for recursion, that's the major part of what you're
mhm.
interested in.
Yeah.
It does have the drawback, which is pretty big, of being red.
Says you.
Yeah. But yeah, it's powerful, so I'm not going to be surprised if that card goes back up to that $1,000 mark. Or at least back to that 800 by the end of the year, and within a year or two the 1,000, because people are moving on revised now. People are
Yeah.
snatch up revised, and revised was a heavily printed set, so there's a lot more Wheel of Fortunes than there are Time Twisters out there.
Hmm.
But Time Twisters now sitting at what, 4 grand, 5 grand. I mean, it just keeps going. That's the unlimited copy.
Yeah. It's
um
crazy. So are we going to call this buyout 3.0 now? I mean, we just had 2.0 like
like what,
in
6 months
March last year.
ago? It wasn't even
Yeah.
March. It was like July,
April?
August. No, we were doing the show when it happened. It
Oh,
was
that's true. Yeah.
I think it was with Double Masters was spoiled. There was a sudden rush towards buying a reserve list,
Yeah,
probably
you're right.
because all the reprints that were happening in Double Masters, and we were like, well, I guess that's getting people scared and they're moving towards. And
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know if it's kind of subtly continued to go on behind the scenes. I don't always pay as much attention to reserve lists, but it seems really huge right now. In the last month, some people are saying it had to do with getting the $600 stimulus checks, people picking up cards, or who knows. But
I don't know. I still hold on to that $500,000 Black Lotus. I mean,
yeah,
if that is now the most expensive trading card
card,
ever sold online,
yeah.
period. I mean, so our game has the most expensive trading card ever sold online.
Yeah. And I know
And if that
just a couple
doesn't,
years ago, the high price was $100,000
yeah, and
for a
that was like
PSA 10.
Charizard or something.
No, that was for a Black Lotus PSA 10 Alpha Black Lotus. That was like 2 years ago.
No, well, I mean, no, I'm talking
Now
about,
since then, Charizard, I think there was a
okay.
Charizard that higher. But I mean, I remember when basically just a couple years ago, that more or less same card was worth 1/5 what it is now. I wonder.
Hmm.
I don't know if it was signed or not, but I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? Anyway, I guess we'll move on out of the reserved list here and into just some regular old everyday specs we got here.
Yeah, these first
Um,
two here, I'm gonna open up the first one here.
sure.
I mean, unless you'd like to.
No, go ahead.
But this I was kind of moved and pushed by Turgrid and cards that could spike, and this first one's one that I think has quite a bit of growing yet to do. It's not been entirely overlooked, and the next one, which I'm gonna let you talk about because I know you're a fan of the card, is one I think a lot of people have just almost entirely overlooked, and I think it has room now to grow because of cards like Turgrid and Tiny Bones. So this first one is Death Cloud. It is from Darksteel and Original Modern Masters 2013. It is a sorcery for X and 3 black. Each player loses X life, discards X cards, sacrifices X creatures, then sacrifices X lands. So when you look at a card like Turgrid, that says whenever an opponent sacrifices a non-token permanent or discards a permanent card, you may put that card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control.
Yeah.
So let's just say you spend X is 5. You win.
Yeah.
I mean, you win. There's not
X
really
is 2,
coming back from that.
X is 2, you win.
There's a very solidly, because odds are you're going to get maybe 3 permanents. We'll say on the low end, 3 permanents from the yard because of discard, 6 creatures, and 6 lands. And your opponent's going to be losing a third of that each.
Yeah.
Just ridiculous. Now, Pox, which of course is the 3 black sorcery that just does a third. Everybody sacrifices a third of all this. That card jumped to, it's around $20. It's from Ice Age. It went through the roof. But Death Cloud here just saw a little blip. So it jumped up maybe 50 cents. So TCG market, $3.02. Now this is for the Modern Masters version, which for the most part is cheaper, though I did notice there were some Darksteel copies available slightly cheaper on TCG than the Modern Masters equivalent. But for the most part, the Modern Masters is slightly cheaper than the Darksteel. TCG market, $3.02, mid $3.05. Card Kingdom out of stock at $3.49. Star City Games, $1.99. Guess what? They're out of stock. Channel Fireball, however, has 8 in stock at $3.70, which I think is actually not a bad price.
That's not bad.
Card I think is going to be jumping still. TCG near mint, $5.70, with a total of 20 copies available in light play or near mint. Though the light play bulk copies from Darksteel are available for $4.78. Those supplies very small on that version as well. So definitely Channel Fireball is the place to go if you can still get them by the time you see this video. Because I think picking them up at $3.70 when you're looking at near mint or $5.70 on the low end with very few copies available. This card, I do expect we're going to see this probably at least double up in the next 2 weeks, if not triple up. It's going to go fast.
Easily. It's already, I've always been kind of shocked at how inexpensive this card is.
Yeah.
Because it was playable before Tergrid.
Yeah.
I mean, very playable. So, yeah, I don't know. Darksteel was kind of my heyday, you know.
Such a good set.
It was such a great set. And this was, I mean, if I had a black deck, this card was in there. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Even, and that was back in the day where, you know, the internet wasn't the way it was now. And we didn't have to have 100% synergy in our decks. We would just run Death Clouds because, well, it's sweet.
Yeah. This card always reminded me of, like, if black had balance, it would be Death Cloud. And yeah, it could go, okay, things aren't going well right now. All right, fine. I'm going to pump, 4 into Death Cloud and basically wipe the board, reset lands, set lands back, and set hands back. And yeah, we each lose a life and kind of reset the board.
Yeah. Man, it's definitely a game resetter in a one-on-one. I mean, for sure.
Yeah.
And even in the Commander,
even in a multiplayer,
yeah. So, yeah, Death Cloud, super awesome. Good spec, by the way.
Yeah, I was shocked this hadn't moved as much. Like, I saw that Pox had moved. I considered Small Pox, which if you want the card for your deck, it's cheap. There's a ton of copies out there, though. It's an uncommon from multiple sets. But this one here, only 2 printings. Darksteel and the first Modern Masters, so not massive amounts of that card by comparison to modern day standards.
Yeah. So the next big old boy we got here with Tergrid is Rankle, Master of Pranks. 2 and 2 black for a legendary fairy rogue. It's a 3/3 flying haster. And whenever it deals combat damage to a player, choose any number. Each player discards a card. Each player loses 1 life and draws a card. Each player sacrifices a creature. the Turgid, that's some bad news.
Yep, that's recurable. 1 in 3 are jumping out on there going, "Oh, I want to do that."
Yeah.
And with that haste means there's probably going to be a player open unless they got an answer in hand like a swords.
Yeah.
And if they had a swords open, they probably would have swords Turgid already. So you drop Rankle out there, you fly in, and now your opponents are each discarding a card and sacrificing a creature. This is a recurable just nightmare if you're running Turgid.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty, if it's not dealt with in like the first turn, I mean, as soon as it hits the board turn, because it's got haste. I mean,
yeah.
And you got Turgid out, game's over, man.
Yeah, and you know, I looked at a lot of cards that are seen play in Turgid and the ones that have seen spikes in movement. And like Death Cloud, this one's just kind of just gone under the radar. Like it's in some Turgid deck lists listed there, but price-wise hasn't moved much. Maybe that's because, you know, supply is still kind of high because Throne of Eldraine. But guys, Throne of Eldraine was what, 14 months ago? 16 months ago? It's not going to be in print much longer. If they're even going to print anymore because of printing concerns that they've had due to the pandemic, they may not print any more Throne of Eldraine at this point.
Yeah, which has been probably one of the best sets in recent memory. I mean,
yeah.
How many sets can you think of in Magic's history that have had 6 cards banned in Standard from it?
Yeah.
I can think of one in the modern era of Magic.
Or Mirrodin?
Mirrodin, yeah. And the only reason we're counting cycle 6 is because it had 5 lands that were banned.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
And you've seen what the Great Hinge is up around $50 now.
Which I'm so sad about because that is the only card from Throne of Eldraine I do not own.
Oh.
And I just never built a deck that needed it, so I was never too worried about it. I was just like, well, this is like a $20 card. Sweet, you know, no big deal. I'll be able to grab it if I need to. It'll always be $20.
No,
well,
it's been going crazy. I was lucky. I pulled a couple of those and a couple of Okos because I still think Oko's great. And Oko, in case people aren't paying attention, Oko's been continuing to climb as well because, yeah, he's banned in a lot of places, but those places he's not banned, he's still just as busted. And I don't think he's going to get banned there in EDH. It's a possibility. I don't think they're going to do it, though.
Sure. Yeah. And, you know, I think a lot of the oh man, we were just talking about it. Sorry, I'm a little saucy, but the artifact that we were just talking about.
Anvil of Burgundy?
Yeah. No.
Oh, the Great Hinge?
Yeah, the Great Hinge. I think a lot of that pricing has to do with Standard right now. Again, and it's hard to say that because, I mean, there are no paper Standard events happening, so maybe not.
It's huge in EDH, though. I mean, it's the best of that cycle by far in EDH and everywhere else that it can be played.
Well, speaking of green cards and great sets that have been, you know, underpriced for quite some time and are starting to make the tick up, let's talk a little bit about Modern Horizons.
Good set.
So you and I both, ever since Modern Horizons came out, were really, really big on Modern Horizons and a lot of cards in it, specifically Hall of Heliod's Generosity, which has been moving up a little bit day by day. It's not very much, but it's going in the right direction. So first card I want to talk about is Force of Vigor. So Force of Vigor is 2 and 2 green for an instant. That reads, destroy up to 2 target artifacts and or enchantments. But wait, there's more. You could play it for free simply by exiling a green card from your hand as long as it's not your turn. So for free, you can destroy up to 2 target artifacts and or enchantments. Man, that's busted. Especially at instant speed in EDH where you can tap out and deal with a combo. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So Now, with Modern Horizons quickly running out of supply at major distributors across the board, um, it's only going to climb up and it's only going to keep going up. Yeah. It's pretty easy include in any green deck, gets rid of multiple threats, especially since lots of artifacts or combo pieces for free. And we say slow and steady climb from its mark of about $5 after its release, and the odds of reprint on this card are extremely low. I mean, it's free, so Wizards is not in a hurry to print free cards ever. So pricing on it currently, TCG Market's $7.91 with a mid of $8.02. Card Kingdom has them for $9.99. Star City Games is out of stock at $8.99. Channel Fireball, only 2 in stock at $10, and you can pick them up TCG Near Mint bulk for $9.49. It's only a handful of bulk copies, though, on TCG. So it is played in about 12,000 decks on EDH Rec. But again, I really, really believe, and I've heard from multiple sources, that Modern Horizons is quickly dwindling from distributors. Not because they're holding them back, but because they're just legitimately out of them. I know a couple of distributors I had heard of through shop owners told me that their distributors only have 100 boxes, not cases, boxes. So, and they're not going to reprint them. I mean, they're done reprinting. There's no more waves coming. So yeah, look for those to spike. And then I got one more here. I don't know. Do you want to go ahead and take it away with that one?
This one I'm a big fan of, actually. As well as Force of Vigor. This next one, though, is unlike the other, not instant. It is quite enchanting, being an enchantment by the name of Unbound Flourishing. For 2 and a green, you get an enchantment with whenever you cast a permanent spell with a mana cost that contains X, double the value of X. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell or activate an ability, if that spell's mana cost or that ability's activation cost contains X, copy that spell or ability. You may choose new targets for the copy. So right away, this was one I had to have for my Zexara Hydra deck, which, kind of a no-brainer there. This is the doubling season of X. And as we like to talk about with doubling season, it's one of those cards that... one of those mythics, like this card, which is also a mythic, that saw and typically maintains a very high price point. And we've seen now them start to print X Matters spell. We've seen them starting to move in the direction of Death Touch Matters, Menace Matters, or Menace Tribal, Death Touch Tribal, X Tribal. They're starting to branch out discard. They're starting to put more into discard. And so as they add more X cards and X abilities on cards, we're going to see a higher and higher demand for this card because this card is the doubling season of X. And at 3 mana, it's an easy include in a deck that can make value out of this. Not just a Hydra deck, but like with Zexar or anything else where X matters. It's a steal right now at the price. At a TCG market of $7.66 with a mid of $8.66. And these are your notes on here. I'm assuming they're all in stock at these prices. Yeah. So at Card Kingdom, in stock at $7.99. Star City Games in stock at $5.99. That's a steal. And then we got Channel Fireball in stock at $8. And TCG Near Mint bulk $7.55. So I know where my money's going when it comes to picking this card up, and that would be Star City Games. Right now, they are a steal.
Yeah. And they've got like 30 copies or something. I mean, it's nice. 38 copies or something like that. I mean, tons. So, this card, when it first came out, for quite a while, was like $15-16.
Yeah, I remember.
It wasn't until I don't know, like the April really, when everything EDH started like going and climbing tremendously. For some reason, Unbound Flourishing was just kind of left in the dust and like it went down. like tremendously. So, which is kind of crazy.
I think we had a lot of hype from Zaxara because he was one of the most popular commanders from the that was 2019, I think. I can't remember. Was he 2019 or 2018? Or 2020, 19. I mean.
It might be 20. It's 20.
It's 2020. He was in one of the I can't remember which deck now, but he wasn't the face card. He was one of the
Ikoria, one of the Ikoria commander decks. Yeah.
So this card I remember jumped up a bit there. I was surprised actually when I saw these prices that it has gone down to this point. And honestly, I think we might be sitting at a low point on this card because all it's going to take is a single good X matters to make X tribal come back into the limelight, if you will. These earlier cards we talked about that are discard themed, and we're seeing them pushed and then pushed again. That was because we had Tiny Bones, and before the dust could settle on Tiny Bones, we got Turgid. So,
and by the way, this is at an all-time low. Yeah. It absolutely is, and that's why I put it on here, because if this drops anymore, I cannot see it dropping any lower than the $6 at Star City Games.
No,
I mean,
it's mythic
for a mythic like doubling season opportunity effect. You know, it is a little narrow, but it's not that narrow. There's a lot of X spells in Magic. There's a lot of X abilities in Magic. It's only in 4,000 decks on EDH Rec, which surprised me.
Well, I mean, we're still talking, you know.
It does have to go into an X Matters deck, obviously. So maybe 4,000 is not too surprising, but even so,
it's really good. And again, it's just good. As they push that theme more and more, which I'm sure now they will, they're seeing that they can branch into other aspects. Discard Matters, X Tribal, Menace Matter or Menace Tribal, Death Touch Tribal. We're seeing that they're playing with other tribal-esque concepts.
The turn matters.
Into the turn matters. So they're playing with different things that matter, which really makes looking at and specking on cards, you have to consider more long-term, because obviously speculation is a long-term play. In most instances, like when I picked up the Dwarven Blood Boiler and the Dwarven Recruiter, that was for immediate flip, which I did, and made profit off of. I still have quite a few, but I made my money back and then some, and now I'm like, okay, what I sell or not sell at this point, I don't really care. I've made money off it. Although Blood Boiler went up again last week in price.
Wow.
So who knows? But that brings us to the end here of our episode of our specs.
It does. It feels good to be back in the saddle again. I know we said it on the last episode, and we had a little snafu last night. We tried to record this last night, guys, but unfortunately,
technology.
I was getting throttled by Xfinity, I guess. I mean, it's the only thing I can think of, because we're doing it at the same exact time. One night later, with way more bandwidth being taken up in my house.
And you haven't been freezing at all, so
so
it was just one of those flukes,
Yeah, but having done episode 24, I think. Having done 24 episodes and that being the first time that's ever happened, I think we're doing pretty good.
Yeah,
honestly, considering I'm using a wireless network, adapter, so. I'm not going to complain about it, and I hope you won't. You can.
No, I can. I'll put in the credits, bunch of complaints. Maybe I'll throw it up right here. Bunch of cussing and stuff. Trent let it scroll for a while I keep talking. That sounds like a lot of work, so I probably won't do it. So, you, the audience, please just imagine that's happening right now and save me the work. And while you're at it, be sure to like this video, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please take the time to do so. If you enjoy content on speculation, on just us shooting the poop on everything Magic, but primarily around the world of Magic, and also share this. And when I say share, I mean
You can share it with your mothers, your daddies, your sisters, your cousins, your brothers, your aunts, your cousins, your brothers, and with the guy, the sommelier, down at the train car track number 368 down in Pasadena, Texas. His name is Frank. He is wonderful and only provides the best box wine you've ever had in your entire life. Yes. Frank, cheers, my friend. Cheers.
Well, everyone, we hope you appreciated this episode. And as always, may your card draw be plentiful and your mana never screwed.
And keep commanding the market.
Peace.